Hello learners, I welcome you all to the second segment of lecture number 31. In the first segment, we discussed the factual matrix of Chemtura versus Canada case, and in this video onwards, we will look at the merits of the case. Particularly in this segment, we will discuss about the allegation of Chemtura that Article 1105 of NAFTA was violated. As you all know, because we've discussed so many cases under NAFTA earlier, that Article 1105 deals with fair and equitable treatment provision under the NAFTA agreement, and so there was initially again a contest between Chemtura and Canada with regard to what is the content of Article 1105 or what is the scope of Article 1105. So Canada here wanted a narrower restriction with regard to the interpretation of Article 1105, but Chemtura wanted a broader interpretation with regard to Article 1105. So when there was contest between Canada and Chemtura, then the tribunal essentially had to first decide what is the scope of Article 1105. What Canada did was, Canada stated that by this case, we already have the FET provision was tied to MST under NAFTA. So Canada wanted the scope of FET clause to be limited only to the minimum standard of treatment, whereas Chemtura wanted a broader scope. So then Chemtura tribunal, what it stated was, it will follow the decision of waste management case, and it stated that the scope of fair and equitable treatment is also evolutionary in nature, and therefore it will not restrict the findings to the standards laid down in Neer case in 1920s. So that is what first it decided. Okay, so moving forward, what was the specific allegations of Chemtura to state that Article 1105 was violated? Chemtura had alleged many things that contributed to violation of Article 1105. Firstly, it stated that a bad faith in launching the special review. Then it had some problem with regard to the process, procedural steps of special review as well as the re-evaluation process as well. Then it also had a problem with the cancellation of retained registrations as well. So there were many things that Chemtura had stated that contributed to violation of Article 1105. So if we look at the bad faith, the allegation of bad faith, Chemtura actually stated that the special review was actually launched only for trade issues, and it was not launched because of any concern for human health or environmental purposes. So this is the statement that Chemtura had made. So the tribunal translated that statement into a question of whether there was a bad faith in launching the special review on the part of Canada. So that is what the tribunal had to look at. So then essentially to decide this question, the tribunal had to go into the intention behind launching the special review process by Canada. At that point of time, Canada stated that this was a legitimate regulatory measure and that Canada had initiated the special review for the purpose of meeting the international obligations that Canada was under. So, you know why Canada stated that this was pursuant to the international obligations? Because Canada adopted the Aarhus Protocol with regard to the persistent organic pollutants under UNECE's Long-Range Transboundary Convention of 1979. So this it had adopted in 1998 along with 29 other countries. I think 30 countries had adopted the Aarhus Protocol. So if we look at Aarhus Protocol, it restricted the linden products to be used only for 6 specific uses, and even then the individual countries had to undertake an assessment within 2 years from the date of entry into force. So there was specific commitment that Canada was under. I mean, the linden restriction is not only limited to Aarhus Protocol. We could also see that there were other international instruments that sort of questioned the or restricted the use of lindane. What are the other international instruments that dealt with lindane usage? We can see that there were a number of European countries which had added lindane to the list of chemicals for priority action under the OSPAR Convention for the Protection of the Marine Environment of the Northeast Atlantic. Then we can also see the UK Pesticide Safety Directorate also initiated a review of lindane in 1997, and UK PST had actually banned all forms of lindane seed treatment use in 1999, as it felt that there was an unacceptable health risk to workers exposed to the chemical during the seed treatment. Even the Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants also included lindane in the list of chemicals designated for elimination in May 2009. So, Canada was able to show that there was international obligation for it to look at or review the lindane use. So, that was with regard to the international obligation. Moreover, the tribunal also looked at certain other evidence that Canada had submitted. Primarily, this was the evidence that Canada had submitted relied on the testimony of PMRA's director, the regulatory agency's director, Dr. Franklin. So, Dr. Franklin gave an evidence stating that the PMRA was actually a regulatory body which is concerned with the health and environmental reasons, and therefore the special review was launched only for the purpose of reviewing the harmful effects of lindane. And the evidence of Dr. Franklin was also reiterated by 3 other officials of PMRA as well. Dr. Franklin stated that the intention behind even the POP's convention at the international level was to address long-range transboundary concerns. So, Canada wanted to do a review first before making a decision to ban lindane. So, that was the intention as per Dr. Franklin, and he stated that Canada did not have any preconceived notion to impose a ban, but rather to conduct a review and take a decision based on scientific review or not through pressure from other countries. So, Dr. Franklin's testimony was also supported by the testimony of Mr. Chaffee, who was the head of the toxicology re-evaluation section of the PMRA's Health Evaluation Directory, and he also stated that the special review was actually launched as a response to domestic concerns in the Northern Contaminants Program report. Then the second official who spoke about who gave testimony before the tribunal was Mr. Worgan, the head of exposure assessment of PMRA. He also stated that Canada did not ban lindane until the reassessment was done, which was a commitment that Canada had undertaken under the Aarhus Protocol. We also see another official, Mr. Sexsmith, Director of Alternative Strategies and Regulatory Affairs Division of PMRA. He also clarified that PMRA was only a regulatory body that was concerned with the protection of health and environment, and therefore the decision to launch a special review had come only from that aspect, and this official, Dr. Sexsmith, had rebutted or refuted the contention of Chemutra that PMRA launched the special review at the behest of a Canola Council of Canada. He said that was not the reason, since this is a regulatory body and the special review was launched only for the purpose of protecting the health and for environmental concerns. So now at this point of time, the tribunal, after looking at the international obligation that the Canada had with regard to lindane uses, as well as by looking at the testimony of Dr. Franklin and the 3 other his colleagues from PMRA, the tribunal concluded that the special review was launched, and this as a legitimate regulatory measure, and it did not accept the contention of Chemutra with regard to bad faith in launching the special review. The second contention that Chemutra took was with regard to the procedural flaws in conducting the special review as well as the re-evaluation process. I mean, Chamutra stated that there were specifically 6 flaws with regard to the way that PMRA conducted the special review and re-evaluation process that can be considered to be a violation of Article 1105. First contention, the first procedural flaw that Chamutra spoke about was with regard to lack of specificity. When PMRA launched the special review, that was unspecific and it did not contain certain information with regard to how the process will be conducted. It did not talk about the role of the registrants. So because of this, the Chamutra stated that the lack of specificity is something that can be considered as a procedural flaw, but the tribunal did not entertain this. The tribunal stated that merely that there was not sufficient information in the notice about the special review cannot consider to be violation of Article 1105, but this will be looked at along with the other contentions. So the second contention that Chamutra took was with regard to workers' assessment study, and claimants, the Chamutra's contention was certain data was not asked from the registrants, and that Chamutra was not given sufficient time period to comment with regard to the workers' assessment study and all of that. So here we can see that this was with regard to some technical details about a scientific study with regard to worker safety and all of that. So during the arbitration, one of the representative of the Chamutra was questioning that the data that was used by one of the study, the Dupre study, was outdated. So then, Canada stated that if that was outdated, the data used in the study was outdated, Chamutra could have spoken about it during the comment period that was given to it, but why didn't it at that point of time, why it did not do so? And then we could see apparently that particular study sort of argued for a lower safety standard, so that was favorable to Chamutra, so it did not do so. So the tribunal concluded that it sort of did not accept Chamutra's argument that sufficient time period was not given to Chamutra for making comments on the study. It could have anyway done so. It could have done at that point of time, rather than questioning the data, the outdated data that is used in the study at the time of arbitration. The third point that it stated with regard to procedural flaws was regarding the scientific basis for the outcome. But here the tribunal concluded that it is not the job of the tribunal to evaluate the scientific findings. I mean, it's not even competent to do so. Right. So, tribunal stated that it cannot comment on the scientific basis for the outcome of PMRAs, and then what it stated was just because merely a divergent scientific opinion is available, that would not amount to violation of Article 1105. Fourthly, we could see there were questions with regard to the PMRA's delay and in conducting the special review or in concluding the special review. So here what we see the claimant's contention was, the claimant stated that because of the delay in PMRA concluding its scientific review, special review, it could not register its product with EPA as well. So there was some delay in registering its product with EPA. Then on the facts of the case, the tribunal saw that even when the review was ongoing, the claimant had tried for registering its product with the US EPA, Environmental Protection Agency of United States, although unsuccessfully. And with the contention of claimant was that there was undue delay in concluding the special review. So initially when the special review was launched, it had a deadline to complete the review by 2000 itself, but then as we know that the review was concluded only in October 2001. And tribunal held that the claimant is not entitled to an earlier deadline, and claimant's contention was that it could not, it affected its right to register the product with the US EPA, right? So on the facts of the case, it was evident that they still did try to attempt the same. So the tribunal felt that the proximate cause between delay and the damage is highly speculative, and it rejected this contention as well. Finally, with regard to board of review, claimant had a contention that it was delayed because initially PMRA refused to establish a board of review. That is something that is actually provided under Section 23 and 24 of Pest Control Products Registration Act. But eventually Canada did establish a board of review. But this is something that the claimant was saying, that initial refusal of board of review and all of that. And also it took a contention with regard to that, PMRA tottered at the attempts of establishing a board of review. But here also the tribunal found that if there was a delay in establishing a board of review, Chemtura should be also partially held responsible, because when PMRA it approached the minister and minister referred the matter to PMRA, then immediately Chemtura filed cases in the domestic courts. So that is something that also contributed to the delay. So therefore the tribunal stated that the delay in establishing board of review is partially attributable to Chemtra as well. Then finally it had one contention that the special review, the re-evaluation process was only done in order to strengthen Canada's defense and not as a legitimate process. And for that, Chemtra relied on one internal document wherein PMRA had consulted the Trade Bureau, and the Trade Bureau had suggested PMRA to conclude the review process, right? So this was one of the contention. It was done only for trade purposes and all of that. Then the tribunal rejected this contention also, because the tribunal stated that actually the re-evaluation process had started much earlier, before the date of the internal document that Chemtra had submitted. So on this contention also, the tribunal did not accept Chemtra's argument. So all of the procedural flaws that the Chemtra had identified, the tribunal did not agree with any of those flaws. So we could say that the tribunal rejected the second tenet of the FET violation that was claimed by Chemtura. So the other contention with regard to violation of FET was the cancellation of Linden registrations of Chemtura. So here Chemtura claimed that PMRA has terminated its registrations, and that is amounted to the breach of Article 1105. How did it say that registration cancellation of registration something that amounts to breach of Article 1105? It actually, the claimant stated that it's not just the cancellation of registration, but that it was used as a punitive measure. Since it was used as a punitive measure, that amounts to violation of Article 1105. So basically the claimant's contention was there could be other alternatives that can be pursued rather than termination itself. For instance, phasing out through voluntary mechanism can be explored. But the very fact that PMRA had terminated its registration, that was a harsher alternative that is available to PMRA. So therefore, it had taken a punitive measure. So since ignoring other alternatives, it had taken a punitive measure, Canada has violated Article 1105. So if we look at the facts of the case, so actually even the pest control product regulation do talk about phasing out of certain compounds. So here also there's a review that was conducted, and then it had Canada had found that there's harmful effect of Linden and all of that. So there was actually a voluntary opt-out mechanism was given to Chemtura. There was a letter that was sent on 19th December and asking Chemtura to voluntarily undertake an opt-out mechanism. That was one. In this letter also asked for certain other information with regard to inventory and history of sale of Linden related products. Now the Chemtura did not give the details that were asked in this letter. So in January, 17th January, again another letter was sent to Chemutra saying that there were at least phone calls were also made that was also left unanswered. So finally, this letter sent on 17th January stated that if Chemtara does not give information, then it will be presumed that Chemtara is not going to undertake a voluntary withdrawal mechanism. So then the deadline was fixed in the 17th January letter, that is Chemtra has to give the information by 24th January. So what we see, what the tribunal saw on the records was on 23rd January, one day before the deadline, Chemtara had replied and it gave the information that was asked from it. So even in the future letters that Chemtra had written, Chemtra had clearly mentioned that it's not going to voluntarily withdraw the products. So therefore, the tribunal had concluded that the action that was taken by Canadian regulatory authorities is not something of a punitive measure. Sufficient fair opportunity was provided to Chemtara for voluntary withdrawal, and it did not fully utilize that. So therefore, this does not amount to violation of Article 1105. And the next ground on which violation of Article 1105 is taken by Chemutra is with regard to the non-registration of one of the alternatives to Lindane of Chemutra, Gaucho CSFL. So this was one alternative. Now here we see that Chemtara had come out with actually 3 alternatives to Lindane for treating the canola seed. One was Gaucho 75ST, Gaucho 480FL, Gaucho CSFL. Gaucho 75ST and 480, Gaucho 480FL has actually got the registration, but Gaucho CSFL did not get a registration for a long time. Only after a period of 848 days, which comes up to 28 weeks, then it was approved. So here the contention of Chemtra was that there was unnecessary delay in the registration of one of the Lindane alternatives. Now, Chemutra stated that PMRA has given an assurance that it will facilitate the registration of Lindane alternatives in the voluntary agreement itself. Canada stated that PMRA did not make any promises within the voluntary agreement to such an extent. It merely facilitated the voluntary agreement, and what is the responsibility PMRA had undertaken under the voluntary agreement, not even under the voluntary agreement, in the context of voluntary agreement, that it will expedite the review process of Lindane alternatives. So that is what it did. And then it had also announced its intention that it will consider 3 active ingredients as an alternative for Lindane, and it will expedite the review process of these 3 active ingredients. That is why Gaucho 75ST and Gaucho 480FL got the registration, because it fell within the expedited review scope. And PMRA clearly stated that any other ingredient beyond these 3 will not be considered within the expedited review process. So this was communicated. 13 months after this communication by PMRA, Chemtra submitted an application for the registration of Gaucho CSFL, and then there was a delay and all of that. So even the normal review process of PMRA, the standard was 15 months, but it was not a binding standard. So even though 28 months was taken, it was not a binding standard. Then Chemtra was also saying the competitors Helix and Helix Extra got the registration much earlier than Gaucho CSFL. So for the compounds Helix and Helix Extra also, the review process almost took more than 700 days. And in fact, on the facts of the case, the tribunal saw that the first report of Helix was even rejected. And the same safety factor that PMRA applied to Chemtra, that was safety factor of 1000, that's the same thing was applied to Helix and Helix Extra as well. So the tribunal on those facts also stated that, since this is not a binding, the 15 weeks of normal time taken for a review by PMRA, it's not a binding standard, and so it will not, the mere fact that it took more than 15 months will not amount to violation of Article 1105. Moreover, since Gaucho 75 ST and 480 FL is already been registered. We cannot say there was bad faith on the part of PMRA, and the same safety standards was also applied to Helix. And so the tribunal sort of did not agree with the fact that there was delay. Moreover, the tribunal wanted Chemutra to show some sort of an economic damage because of the delay in the registration process, which Chemutra did not do. So it did not show any economic damage because of the delay. So the tribunal concluded that there was no violation of Article 1105. So we'd seen 4 tenets that Chemutra had taken. One was with regard to bad faith in launching the special review. Then second was with regard to 6 procedural flaws in special review and re-evaluation process. Then third, cancellation of the Lindane registrations. And fourthly, with regard to delay in registering Gaucho CSFL. So all of these contentions were actually rejected by the tribunal, stated that there was no violation of FET clause of NAFTA, which is Article 1105. So with that, we concluded the second segment. In the next segment, we will look at one other contention, that is a contention with regard to expropriation, as well as a contention with regard to MFN in the next video. Thank you.